let's see. All right, so Vlad's got an example here. So I guess Vlad's asking, let's say you have, here, let me get things started here. All right. All right, so we have a ratio node, and I'm just going to grab a bunch of solvers here. All right, I'm just going to spread these all out and connect them to a ratio node. All right, so let's take a look at the chart here. So what the ratio node's doing, and just a sec here. Let me get a couple of solvers set up here. Yeah, there we go. All right, so the inflection solver and the bar direction solver, those are going to be easy to understand. So the ratio node, it takes the number of solvers plugged into it and it breaks it into a ratio. So right now I only have 2 solvers, right? So each solver is worth a half or 50%, right? Each solver is worth 50%. So 2 solvers, if you add 2 solvers together, well, if you take 100% and divide it by 2 solvers, you end up with 50% each for each solver. And if we take a look at BloodHound's output, right, you'll see the output's going from 0.5 to 1, right? It's either 0.5 or 1 because we're dealing with 2 solvers. So, so over here, only one solver is long, and the other solver is nothing, right? So basically, the bar direction solver, right? That's going to be long, but the inflection solver, you can see the inflection solver has no output right here, so it's 0. So with the ratio node, it's saying one solver has a long output, so that's worth 50%, and the other inflection solver has no value, so that's 0. So you end up with only 50% here. Now, you can see on this one bar here, let's stretch this out. So you can see this one bar, we actually have 100% output there, right? This bar here equals 1. And that's because both solvers have a long output. So if you take 50% plus another 50%, that equals 100%. And so this bar has 100% output. So the ratio node is just taking the number of solvers that you plug into it and creating a ratio of the number of solvers that you plug into it. So if, let's see here, yeah, so let me take another solver and plug it in. So now if I have 3 solvers, each solver is worth 33%. And so the ratio node is going to take a look at the solvers. They're each going to be worth a third, or 33%, and basically it's just going to kind of add them together and create an output for you. So here we go, right? So again, this one solver, we have all three solvers are giving a long output, so we have 100% on long. Now over here, over here, you can see that the output is 66%, right? And that's because two of the solvers are giving us a long output, and one of the solvers is giving us no output. Now over here, so you see these three bars here, all right, these three bars, we can see one solver is giving us a long output. Stretch that over. Right, one solver is giving us a long output, and therefore we get 33% output for the long side. We have another solver giving us a short output. One solver is giving us a short output for a 33% output, and the other solver has no output. Right, so it's probably going to be, right, the bar direction is giving us the long output, and I bet the slope solver, yep, the slope solver here, the one at the bottom, you can see it's giving us a short output there, and the inflection solver has no output. This guy has no output. So that's why we're getting a long and a short out at the same time. All right, so the ratio node, I guess kind of the simple answer is you take the number of solvers, divide it by 100%, and that's what each solver is worth. And then the ratio node then just adds the long side together, and it adds the short side together and spits out the output of that. Right? So the more solvers you plug in here, the less each solver is worth. Right? So right now each solver is worth a third. If I plug a fourth solver in there, now each solver is only worth a quarter, so it's worth less, right? And so if I plug, if I plug 10 solvers into it, then each solver is only worth 10% or a tenth. And I say I don't have 10 solvers here, but I have 8 solvers, so each solver is only worth an eighth, right? So about, what is that? An eighth is, I think, about 12% or something like that, 12.5%. Right, so the more solvers you plug into a ratio, the less each solver is worth. Right, because, so. Right, Vlad, I hope that kind of gives you a quick summary there of the ratio node. He's saying, can you show a simple example showing how to use the inflection solver? So, for example, a 10 EMA, for instance. Let's see. So I wasn't getting useful results. Let's see. Okay, sure. You bet. Dive in here. So let me create a new logic template here. All right. So let's grab an inflection solver. There we go. So an inflection is a mathematical term for change in direction, right? So whenever you have a change in direction, that's a inflection. And with charts, the only changes in directions that we have on a chart is going from down to up, right? Charts do not change from left to right, right? Charts don't have these kind of changes, right? Or I should say more appropriately, indicators don't change from left to right, right? Indicators only change from going, up or down, or, down to up, right? So really the inflections, when you apply an inflection to a chart, really all you have is a change, from up to down. So for example, right, those would be like your inflection points, right, where the moving average is going from up to down and then from down to up. So let's get the EMA 10 plugged in here. All right, I'll change that period. All right, so I've got the EMA selected down here. I changed the period to 10. We have the plots are selected for us automatically. And let me see. Let me just make sure that this white line. No, that's an SMA 10. Let's see. All right, let me remove the SMA, and I'll change the EMA to a 10. So there we go. All right, so I'm going to stretch this out so we can take a look here. All right, so there we go. We can see right there, right, the EMA reverses down. And then right there, the EMA reverses up. Right, so if your indicator, starts reverses down, you're going to get a short output, and if your indicator, right, reverses up, then you're going to get a long output. Right, so that's simply, that's simply what the inflection solver does there. Just kind of looks for those reversal points, either reversing down or reversing up of your indicator. So. Of course, you could also use the inflection solver on a stochastics as well. So let me just I should name this solver first before I move on. So that's an EMA 10 inflection. So there's an EMA 10 inflection, and I'll just do another simple one for the stochastics. And let's see, that's a stochastics 714. And let's change our indicator here. So there we go. I'm plugging in the stochastics there, and I'm just gonna use the default settings of 7 and 14. And let's see, the D. Let's see. I think I have %D on my chart. I guess I'll find out soon enough, won't I? Let's plug this guy in, and yeah, that looks correct there. Right, so you can see as the stochastic reverses down and then reverses up and reverses down, we're getting the inflection points, right, identified for us. So let's see. Gary's saying, would I have to use calc on bar close equals true to use the inflection solver? No. You can use the inflection solver, on any mode. So all solvers work on any calculate on bar close setting there, right? So what Gary's talking about here is, let me open up the indicator window. All right, so let's see, where is it? There we go. So Gary's asking about this NinjaTrader setting, which is calculate on bar close. So he's asking, does it only work on when it's set to true or set to false? No, it works for both. So it'll work on false as well. Let's see here. And let me connect to a data feed. And if we're lucky, maybe price will work with us. Oh, yep, check this. Oh, that EMA is almost ready to inflect up there. Ah, shoot, I missed it. Darn it. I just missed it. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now you can see the EMA just price moved down and it pulled the EMA down, so now we're getting a down inflection right now in real time. Right, so we're getting the EMA is inflecting down in real time. Right, so you can see that inflection solver is working, in real time now with calculate on bar close set to false. It's working in real time. Right, and if for some crazy reason, if price moves back up, then that down inflection would disappear and we'd just be left with the green up inflection. So let's take a look at the stochastics there. Who knows? If price pulls up a little bit, we might get the stochastics inflecting up in real time. Well, it doesn't look like that's going to happen there. So, all right. So Gary, I hope that answers your question there. I said I would use the support resistance solver to detect a possible bounce off of this, some kind of a moving average, or off of this could be off of any kind of indicator that you got here, but I'm just going to use an EMA in my example. All right, so let me get a new logic template started here. All right, so we're looking for a price bounce using the support resistance solver. Now keep in mind the support resistance solver is actually not the optimal solver to use. And I've kind of done this on purpose just to kind of get into a little more complex logic. So really, if you're interested interested in building kind of a bounce system, a price bounce system, the comparison solver is really the better solver to use for this. And we do actually have a video showing how to build a moving average kind of bounce system, or how to build a logic for a bounce system. And it uses the comparison solver because that's actually a better solver to use. But I'm actually going to use the support resistance solver on purpose, just to make it a little more complicated, just to kind of get into, just to kind of demonstrate some more complex logic capabilities. And we're also going to end up using a function node in here as well. So one of these function nodes is going to compensate for this support resistance solver. So let me just kind of get the support resistance solver set up initially. Let's see, I have a EMA 55 on the chart. All right, so I'm looking at there we go. All right, so I've got my solver named, and let's see. All right, so for the support resistance solver, if you're looking to detect when price is close to a plot, when price gets close to an indicator plot, right? If you're looking for price getting close to an indicator plot, then we want to use tailwind. All right, so we're going to set this to tailwind mode, and we're using a indicator, so we need to set that to true. And now we have this input section here. All right, so this input section appears when we set use indicator to true. So now let's change our indicator. So instead of an EMA or SMA, we're going to go to an EMA. Here's our EMA, and I have a 55 period EMA on the chart, and I'm going to go in here and select the EMA plots like so. And you can see already I'm getting some output on the chart here, right? So you see how see how we're right here, when price starts to approach the moving average, take a look at the output there. Output is increasing and increasing and increasing. So as price is getting closer and closer and closer to my EMA, right, the output of the solver increases and increases there. So, right, and that's just using the default settings here. So that's right. So you can see we have some distance targets here, already kind of predefined, and I'm actually going to go and change these. So you notice right now it's actually it's set up to use an ATR. But for just to kind of keep the training simple to understand, I'm going to change from ATR to ticks, right? Ticks is a lot easier to visualize than an ATR, so I'm going to switch everything over to a tick just so it's easier to see. And let's see, what are we using? The NQ here. So with the NQ, let's see, I'm going to look for price to get within 2 ticks of that moving average. So I'm going to change my distances to 2 ticks. So there you go, right? I've got my ideal distance and my maximum distance both set to 2 ticks. And now let's take a look at the output here. So, right, so we get a lot easier, simpler to understand output here. Just a nice, simple, clean output there. So, all right, so we can see when price is coming from the top, coming down to our moving average. As it approaches it, we're getting a long output. You can see over here we're getting a long output. When price is above our moving average, we're getting a long output. And then when price breaks below the moving average, then we're getting a short output. Right? So that's kind of why the support resistance solver isn't quite the appropriate solver. It's because of how the output behaves. So, right? So even though over here price is above our moving average and it's coming down, right? If you're looking for price to bounce off of a support or resistance line, sometimes price will break through that by a couple of ticks. So even though price might have broken through here, really this is still for bounce traders, this would still be considered a setup for a possible long bounce, because price has been above our support. Price has been above our EMA for so long that even though price might have broken through a couple of ticks, it still would be considered for a long bounce here. But we're getting a short output, so that's kind of where the problem lies, is that we're getting a short output here. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a long short modifier to modify the support resistance output. And let's see, I'm going to use one of these modes here. Let's see, add addition mode. Yeah, there we go. All right. So in using this long short modifier and putting it in addition mode, if you look at the output here, now we're getting a long and a short output. Right? We're just getting an output. Right? We're getting a non-directional output. So that's just telling us. So this non-directional output is just telling us that, hey, price has gotten really close to our moving average. Right? So price has gotten really close to our support resistance line here. right? So this support resistance is just telling us that price is within 2 ticks of our support resistance line, or in this case, our EMA. So now we need some other logic to determine, are we looking for a long trade bounce, or are we looking for, like over here, are we looking for a short trade bounce, right? So, visually when we look at this, what's telling us whether it's a short or a long bounce? How are we determining whether it's a long bounce or a short bounce? Well, we just look at price. Has price been above our support resistance line for a while, or has price been below our support resistance line for a while, right? So we need to build some logic that's looking back here to see, has price been above our support resistance line, or has price been below our support resistance line here? Let's see. So some ways we can do that is we can grab a comparison solver, right? So when we eyeball this, what are we doing? Well, we're comparing the price bars. We're comparing the price bars to our support resistance line, right? We're doing a comparison. Is price above or is price below? Is price below or is price above? So we're so for us as humans, we're doing a visual comparison. And so therefore we would actually grab a comparison solver to do that comparison for us as well. So let's give this a name here. So we're going to compare. We're going to see, is price above or below our EMA 55. There. All right. So there's a name for our solver there. And so the next step is we need to plug price in and our EMA in. So, all right. So input A, that's going to be price. That's going to be our price, and input B is going to be our EMA indicator. So let's go to input A, and instead of using an indicator value, we want to use price. So let's select price here. And for what we're doing, I think we can just use the closing price of the bar. I think that is probably appropriate. Just all we need to use is just the closing price of the bar. So we can just leave that alone. The closing price is selected for us. And let's see. So all right, for input B, let's change that to our EMA. So there's our EMA. Add that down here. Now let's change it to a 55. Right, okay, our EMA plot is selected. There we go. And, all right, if we look at the chart, right, we can see if price is above our EMA or if it's below. Right, we can see here price starts crossing or breaking down below the EMA. Okay. Let's add some further constraints to this logic. Let's say we want to make sure that price has been above our EMA by a few ticks. All right, so our support resistance solver, remember, it's looking to see when price gets within 2 ticks of our EMA. So let's make sure that price has been further away by 2 ticks. Let's make sure that price has been 2 ticks or more away from the EMA. Right, and we can do that by using the large and small amounts. So let's put in 2 ticks, like so. There we go. You know, if we want to make it even more restrictive, you know, let's make sure that price has been 3 ticks away, like so. Right? And now you'll notice when price gets within 3 ticks, there's no output. So we're only seeing, right, we're only getting this long output when price is more than 3 ticks away from our EMA. Right? So this is kind of giving us a good indication that price has been above our support resistance here. So therefore, you know, this kind of tells us that, you know, we're looking for a long bounce. All right, we're looking for a possible long bounce here. What this comparison solver is doing is it's analyzing a bar by bar case, right? A bar by bar case. So even though we see a solid green here, really each bar is being calculated independently, and what that means is, let's see, just a sec here. Let me find a spot on the chart. Okay, yeah, like right here, right? So price has only been above our EMA, right, for only a couple of bars here. So, you know, would we really want to look for a long bounce if price has only been above for a few bars, right? Let me see if I can find a better example. Here we go. Perfect. Here's my nice example here, right? So we get 1 bar. We can see we get 1 bar above our moving average. You know, would we really want to use just 1 bar to determine that, oh, now we're looking for a long bounce? Right? To me, that doesn't seem appropriate. You know, I would think that you would want to see some history. You know, you would want to see, you know, the price being above our support line, you know, for quite some time before you kind of start looking for a long bounce here, right? So what we need to do is make sure that price has been above our support line for, you know, a certain number of bars for, you know, for quite a while. And so that way we can filter out just these 1 bar, you know, 1 bar indications here. So there we go. Let's put that right there. Right, so we want to make sure that basically we have multiple bars above or below our support line, or above or below our EMA here, multiple bars. So the way we can do that is we can use a look back node. Let's go to a look back node here. And so what the look back does is it looks back onto previous bars. And so we don't want to use it. Let's see, do we want to use a displacement? Let's see. I don't think we want to use a displacement now. We might need to set this back to 1, but for now, let's just kind of focus on the look back here. So let's say we want, I don't know, minimum 6 bars to be above or below our support line here. Minimum 6 bars, and we want a minimum of 6 bars. Right, so look at the output now on our chart. You see how all of this has been cleared out, right? So none of this qualifies for looking for a bounce trade, right? Because price has just been kind of consolidating around here. So you can see there's no output anymore, 0 output, right? This is what we had before without the look back, right? So we had a possible long bounce, and then we had a possible short bounce, but really price is just kind of chopping around here a little bit. And then when we apply a look back period, which is what we do as humans, we kind of look at the chart and we go, oh yeah, look, price has been below our EMA for quite some time, so maybe this is good for a short bounce here. We have our kind of a look back set here, right? And okay, so here's the point. Here's the areas we were looking at. All right, so let's take a look at our bounce detection again. Right, so let me kind of mark these here. All right, so I have some arrows here, marking the bars where we're getting price up, right, where price is close to our EMA, right? So this is kind of detecting the bounce here. So, and now let's look at our, basically, I guess we could consider this kind of our trend filter here, right? So, and let me name this here. So, all right, so we have a 6-bar look back. All right, so these two nodes together kind of those are kind of building our trade direction, kind of our trend detection, right? Our trend direction detection kind of logic here, right? So we can see price is above our moving average, right? So it's telling us that we got a nice uptrend going here, and then you notice how this trend, it turns off before it gets to our possible bounce, right? So it turns off. So we need to get this trend output extended forward a couple of bars until it gets onto the bar, right? Until it gets onto the bar that has our possible bounce, right? So there's a couple of bars in here, where there's no trend output. Where I should say right here where the price might be bouncing, there is no trend output. So what that means, what that becomes, so the issue with that is that, right, so if we use an AND node to connect these two groups of logic together, right, basically we get nothing. We get zippo. So we get nothing because you'll see that our trend, right, our trend detection logic never has an output, doesn't have an output on the bars where price gets close enough, right? So remember, I marked them with an arrow. When price gets close enough to our EMA to look for a bounce, I marked those bars with an arrow. You can see that our trend output never has an output on the bars that get close enough to our moving average. Right, same thing over here. So we've kind of established that we have a downtrend going, but then this downtrend turns off when price actually gets close enough to our EMA to bounce off. So therefore, when we look at an AND node, we get nothing here. So what we need to do is kind of our trend logic. We need to take this trend and extend it forward onto the bar. We need to extend it forward onto the bar where price price gets close enough to our EMA there. So let's see, one ways we can do that. Let's see. There's a couple of ways we can do that. I could use the displacement here. So in our look back node, I could use that displacement, right? And right, so now you can see that our trend logic is now plotting on this, right? Is plotting on the arrow where price gets close enough to our EMA. So let's take a look at the AND node here. So there we go. So we have, right? So we have a possible bounce there. If we look at all of these, you know, the first one is missed. You notice how the first one is missed there? We got the second one, but the first one is missed. You know, so what happens if price actually reversed on the first bar? You know, we would have missed that signal. So that's telling me that kind of our displacement isn't quite what we want. Not quite doing what we want. So I'm going to try using the signal extender. Right. So the signal extender, it does just what it says. It will extend a signal forward in time. And so let's see. Let's extend our signals forward for at most 3 bars. So you'll notice, right? So see our trend. All right, our trend detection output has been extended forward. Right, it's been extended forward, and it's covering quite a few of these bars here. Right. If we look over here, right, our downtrend logic has been extended, so it covers these 2 bars where price could possibly bounce. And we did get a bounce there. So if we look at our AND node now, here we go. Look at our AND node, and there. So look at that. So we got, right, we got this bar covered with a long signal. We at least have 3 of these bars covered, but the last 2 are missing. We have these 2 down bars covered. So we still have a slight issue here. You know, these 2 bars are still missing a long signal there. All right, so let's see what we can do here to resolve this. Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at some ways I could resolve this. Let's see. All right, yeah, I think I've got kind of a roundabout way to solve this. And so I'm going to grab another signal extender. Well, I mean, a lot of times there's multiple ways that you can, solve a logic problem here. I could grab another signal extender. But instead, actually, I think I'm going to do something else here. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the look back node. I am going to use a displacement of 2, like so. And oh, that's right. Let's see. Okay, yeah, maybe I only need a displacement of 1 here. Yeah, so let me try and do this with a displacement of 1. And now I'm going to go back to looking at my signal extender. And let's see how many I've got. So here I've got an example. Let's see, I've got 3 bars. Yeah, I've got 5 bars. I'm sorry, 5 bars marked as a possible, right, as a possible bounce off of the moving average here. So let's see, do I need to extend for 5? No, I only need to extend for 4. There. So I want to make sure all these bars are covered. And you'll notice that right on this bar where we could get a possible bounce, I've kind of extended the trend system a little too far out. Right, same here. Over here you can see for this possible short bounce, I've extended our trend state out a little too far. And the way I'm going to solve that is I'm going to use the reset functions here. So I'm going to take the output from this long short modifier and connect it into the reset. Right? You see how it's connected into the reset there? Right? So, and with this reset, let's see, I want to use the reset no signal. Yeah, all right. I think that looks good. Yeah. So there's my logic so far. And, oh. All right, shoot, I'm missing one right here. I'm missing that one. Oh. All right, well, let's see. Looks like this logic's going to get a little more complex. Okay, well, you know, this is kind of the, you know, the discovery process that you go through when you're, you know, when you're building something out here. So I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to take a different approach here. Yeah, so my issue is, you know, I'm missing this guy right here. I'm missing this possible bounce signal right there. So, yeah, what I set up, well, maybe I can cheat and just set my displacement to 2. Right, that doesn't work because then I'm missing the first bar where we could get a possible bounce on this first bar here. Yeah, that's why I couldn't use a displacement of 2. So that, yeah. All right. So all right, just gonna disconnect those guys, throw them off to the side, and instead I'm gonna try using the toggle node. All right, toggle node. So if we look at the toggle node here, take a look at the chart, right? So basically the toggle node is once we get into an uptrend state, it stays in an uptrend state, right, until we switch over to a downtrend state, right? So you notice how, right, we're always in a straight. We're always in a state. We're always in either an up or down, a downtrend state with the toggle node, right? Which was a little different than, you know, than what we had originally built here. So you notice how before we kind of had these gaps in here, which remember these gaps were problematic, right? Because the gaps always happened when price got really close for the possible bounce. So this toggle node kind of solves that, right? You see how the toggle node fills us into a long state, you know, when price gets really close. So yeah, so let's just try that. Let's that actually looks like it's turning out to be a much simpler solution. You know, sometimes it's easy to overcomplicate things. All right, so let's take a look now. All right, so now everything's looking perfect. Yeah, everything's looking really good now, right? Let's take a look back here. Right, look at all these possible bounces being identified here. Right. So far so good. Now there's usually one last requirement when bounce traders are looking for their bounce trade. Right, there's one last requirement, which, you know, if we look at this, obviously this was a failed bounce. And why did it fail? Well, because price never reversed, right? We never got a reversal bar, right? We never got a reversal bar. But if you look over here, we did get reversal bars, right? So if you look for a reversal bar, like right here, we got a nice reversal bar. Actually here, let me grab an arrow. Right here we got a nice reversal bar. Right, so usually bounce traders want to take the trade after price reverses or makes the bounce off of it. Right, so what BloodHound is showing us right now, BloodHound is showing us that price is getting close to our support resistance, but this actually isn't the bounce yet. Right, you don't get the bounce until price actually reverses. So like this reversal bar would actually be the bounce bar off of that. So, right. So that's kind of the last requirement that we need to look for, is we need to look for that reversal bar, you know, which confirms that price has made the bounce. So let's finish that off here. So let me go back to where I was working. Let's see, where was I working? There we go. Right, so the next step is we actually want to get the actual signal on this bounce bar, or reversal bar, I'm sorry, yeah, on the bounce or reversal bar, right? So there's the bars that we actually want to get the bounce signal on. All right. So all right, so this AND node is kind of giving us the setup. Right, so this AND node is kind of the setup here, and so the next step is we want to look for price to reverse direction. Let's take a look at this. So we're going to look for price to inflect, or we're looking for price to reverse. So let's set our inflection solver up to look at price. Right, we're going to set our input. We're going to set it to price, like so. And there we go. Look, there's all of the, right, there's all of our reversal points identified. Right, there's all the reversal points identified. So now the next step is, let's take our setup, the output from our setup, combine it with the price inflection, and let's see what we get. So you'll notice that right, you'll notice we're not getting anything. So that didn't quite work out. Right, didn't quite work out. And let's take a look at why. So let's take a look at our setup here. Let's let me zoom in here. Right, so our setup is on this bar, but remember the bounce bar or the reversal bar is one bar after. So you see our output here doesn't have an output on the bounce bar, right? So this reversal bar, there's no output. And so that's why we get nothing from this logic node. So what we need to do is take the output, take the signals from the setup, right? So we need to take the signals from our setup and we need to push it forward onto the next bar. We need to push it forward one bar so that it prints on the reversal bar there. So let's grab another look back. And so our look back has a displacement of 1. So that's what we want to use. We want to use a displacement of 1. So I'm going to rename this. So this guy is just doing a displacement of 1. Right? And if we look at the chart now, so remember that, so this was our setup bar, but now that output has been shifted forward onto the reversal bar or the bounce bar. Right? So let's plug that into our AND node and see what we get. Right? There we go. So there is our bounce signal right there. All right, let's take a look at this. So there we go. There's our two bounce signals right there. And right, all of this stuff in between, it all got filtered out. Right, so even though price came down to our support resistance line, price came down to it, we kind of got the setup, but we never got a reversal bar in time. And so therefore, this kind of failed as a bounce trade, right? And so therefore we never got any signals there. So this all just kind of got filtered out. So let's kind of look through the chart and see how it looks. See if we can find any problems here. Yeah, so far so good. We might be wondering, well, what happened here? Why didn't we get a kind of a bounce signal there? That looked pretty good as a bounce signal. All right, so why didn't we get a signal there? And let's take a look. Let's see here. I'm just going to kind of clean up the leaders. So disconnect that, reconnect it. There we go. Now we got a little cleaner look. So, and I can rename this AND node. So this is actually the signal there. So let's see. So we'll call that the bounce signal. There we go. And so let's take a look at our logic to see why didn't we get a bounce signal there. So let's take a look at this, and so there we go. So you notice here, price did get within 2 ticks of our EMA there, but over here price didn't get within 2 ticks. So remember, we had a requirement here. Price had to get within 2 ticks for that to count. And it looks like, let's see here. Yeah, it looks like this was just over 2 ticks. Let's see. All right, let's take a look at the data. So the close price of the bar is 85.50, and our EMA is 84.97. So it was just over 2 ticks. It was just a tad bit more than 2 ticks. So let's go make an adjustment there. Let's make an adjustment for that, right? Because the distance here, let me zoom in here, right? Our distance there is just a hair over 2 ticks, so that's why we didn't get a bounce trade. So, right, it's kind of a bummer to miss a signal just because, right, you're just fractions of a tick off. So we can go into our support resistance solver here, right? So let's take a look at our support resistance solver here, and we have our distance set to 2 ticks. So if you want to, you could increase this to 3 ticks if you wanted, right? You could do whatever you want, but let's just sticking with our 2 tick theory here. Let's just set this to 2.5 ticks, like so. And now, look, now there's a signal on this bar. There we go. Now we can see we're getting an output, right? We're getting an output from our support resistance solver, right? So we're basically getting, all right, so now the logic is detecting that price has gotten close enough to our EMA there. And so now let's take a look at the whole system here. Let's connect our result node back to our AND node. And all right, there's our trade signal. All right, so there we go. Now we got that bounce signal. So we just had to adjust our distance, our tick distance there for a little bit. All right, a bunch more bounce trades there. Let's see, a bunch more. Yeah. All right, let me look back through the chart. So I'm just kind of looking for any signals that look kind of wonky here. So obviously you can make adjustments here, but based on what we said, like this, when you look at the bigger picture, maybe you might think that maybe this signal is questionable because we didn't get much of an uptrend. But if you remember, the arbitrary rules that I just picked is we only needed 8 bars. We only needed 8 bars to be above our EMA, and so it definitely looks like we got more than 8 bars above our EMA. So, right, that's why that qualified as a trade signal. So it did meet our rules, let's see. Yeah, the good thing is we didn't get any short signals here. So that's good. And let's see what else. Yeah, it looks like price crossed the EMA a little too far to get a reversal bounce, to get a reversal trade there. Yeah, price just crossed over a little too far. So remember, our requirement is that price has to be within 2.5 ticks. Right, so right there, price still stayed within 2.5 ticks of our support resistance there, and then we got the bounce signal afterwards. Yeah, so that one looks pretty good. And let's see, we probably didn't get enough bars here. Yeah, we probably didn't get enough bars above to, or no, actually no. What happened was price broke down. Price went too far below the EMA to get a reversal bounce there. Yeah, price broke down a little too far, so no signal there. Yeah. Which making sure that price doesn't cross too far, that is what helps kind of filter out all this choppy stuff. You kind of get a 2-for-1 deal there with that rule. And definitely a nice clean long bounce there. So, all right, yeah, I so far it looks like we have some nice clean signals. I can't really argue with that. My main concern is I don't want to see signals, in this choppy stuff. So as long as I don't see signals in that choppy stuff, then I know that that the kind of trend filter that I built is working pretty darn good, right? So let's take a look at our logic again here. Right. So at the top here, we have a set of logic. So we used our support resistance to detect when price has gotten close enough to our support resistance line, to look for a possible bounce. And then we have another group here, another group of nodes that's detecting our trend. Right, that's determining to make sure that we had enough of an uptrend or enough of a downtrend above or below our support line, right? So that kind of created our setup, right? That was like our potential trade setup. And then the next group of logic here basically looked for the bounce. Right, so we looked for a price to reverse, which was our bounce, our bounce bar, or reversal bar. So, all right, that's So there we go. That's how that all played out there. And so let's take these nodes. Don't need them. Just delete them. Get that out of there. Yeah. So just kind of getting back to Andre's Fibonacci question. Basically when you're if you're looking for price to bounce off a Fibonacci line, it's very, very similar to looking for price bouncing off of a moving average. So so if you wanted to look for price bouncing off of the fib line, what you would do is you would replace the EMA indicator. You would replace that with your Fibonacci indicator, And then of course, you know, so you would have your Fibonacci indicator in here, and then you would select whatever Fibonacci lines you're looking for the bounce off of. So you would check the 50% Fibonacci plot line, or check your let's see, what's the other one? 72% or no, 68%, Fibonacci line. Maybe your 38% Fibonacci line. So, select whatever Fibonacci percent plot lines that you're looking for bounces off of, and just make sure you have those plots selected, right? So, and actually, this is just coincidental. I didn't actually plan this way, but actually, yeah, the support resistance solver. Yeah, I'm using the support resistance solver. Yeah, this solver actually would work best with a Fibonacci indicator. Right, and the reason why the support resistance would work better with a Fibonacci indicator is, I'll show you here in just a moment. So I'm going to go back to the pivots indicator as my example here. So I got the pivots, and so you see the pivots has a lot of plots here, right? So all these plots could be like your Fibonacci numbers here, right? So the PP could be the 50%, right, and whatever, stuff like that. So if you're using a fib indicator, the uniqueness, all right, what's special about using a support resistance solver is you can see I can actually select multiple plots. So I could select all the Fibonacci lines that I'm looking for a bounce off of. I can select all those plot lines within just using one solver. Right? I could just use one solver to do that. Right? So, whereas, if I was using the comparison solver instead of the support resistance solver, the comparison solver, I should say all the other solvers only allow you to select one plot at a time. So just a sec here while I restore this. Right, so all the other solvers, let me just kind of give you an example here. So I'm going to open up this comparison solver, right? So I have this comparison solver selected. So I'm going to open up the indicator window, and if I switch this to the pivots indicator, the comparison solver, you'll notice I can only select one plot at a time. All right, so if I have the PP plot selected, I can't select the R1 and the PP at the same time. Right? So all solvers can only analyze one plot at a time. Right? Whereas the support resistance solver, that's the one solver that can analyze multiple plot lines at the same time. So, all right, so let me restore this back to our EMA 55. There we go. Yeah. So if anybody else is kind of looking to build a Fibonacci bounce system, this logic here would be the best framework for that. Since it's using a support resistance solver, you could just go in here, select your fib indicator, and then select all the fib retracement lines that you want to look for bounces for. So, okay, all right, guys. Just a reminder: if you guys have, BloodHound questions that you would like to have answered in these workshops, again, all you need to do is just email your question in and let us know that you'd like to have your question answered in the workshop. right? And I'd be glad to do that. So I always like getting emailed questions coming in. Gives me something to do in these workshops. So I look. These workshops are for your guys' questions. So please don't be shy. Don't hesitate to email your questions in ahead of time. One of the conveniences of emailing your question is you can take a screenshot of the chart to help illustrate your point, right? So you could kind of circle areas on your chart, and you could put some text down to kind of explain what you want to do, like that, like so forth, so you can so you can kind of draw on your chart and then send a screenshot in, and that obviously screenshots really help a lot to explain what you're wanting to have done, right? It kind of helps explain your idea a lot. So yeah, so when you email us, you can send those screenshots in as well.